This lesson is going to discuss the evolution of flight. It's a pretty brief presentation because we're going to talk about it more in class, but I do want to give you just a few highlights before we get into our next class session. We can't begin talking about the aircraft that we have today and how we use them without first having a conversation about how we got to this point in aviation. So, let's get started. As I said, this lesson, 1.1.1, will focus on the evolution of flight. The big concept of this lesson is that you will learn about some of the major milestones in aviation. This is by no means all of the milestones in aviation, just some of the more well-known ones. Wilbur Wright is attributed as saying, "The desire to fly is an idea handed down to us by our ancestors who looked enviously onto the birds soaring freely through space on the infinite highway of the air." Orville and Wilbur Wright designed and flew the first heavier-than-air vehicle, named the Wright Flyer, on December 14, 1903. So how did we progress? There were a multitude of aviation advancements in the early 1900s, not just the Wright brothers. We have continued to pursue flight, to go higher, to be faster, and to travel farther. The application of science and math through engineering has allowed humankind to continue the dream of flight. Early aerospace engineering can be traced as far back as Leonardo da Vinci, the creative thinker. Leonardo da Vinci lived from 1452 to 1519, and he created many drawings of what he referred to as flying machines. They were a variety of prototypes in a variety of styles. However, factors such as technology prevented any of his ideas from becoming a reality until over 600 years later. In the images on this slide, you will see a drawing of a Da Vinci flying machine, as well as a model of a Da Vinci flying machine. Lighter-than-air aircraft was a major milestone in aviation advancement. The Montgolfier brothers designed one of the first hot air balloons in 1782. The Montgolfier brothers were originally paper manufacturers and were inspired by rising smoke. Heavier-than-air vehicles weren't really discovered until 1903. Orville and Wilbur Wright flew the first heavier-than-air vehicle in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. They flew 120 feet in 12 seconds at 6.8 miles per hour. Their design built on concepts that others had already been innovating with, including horizontal and vertical surfaces, as well as elements of wing design. After we started utilizing heavier-than-air aircraft, we eventually commercialized aviation. Some catalysts for growth for commercial aviation include various legislation, as well as a variety of competitions and famous people. Charles Lindbergh was the first pilot to complete a non-stop crossing of the Atlantic Ocean in 1927, and won the Orteig Prize as a result. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to complete a non-stop crossing of the Atlantic Ocean in 1932. In addition to this, there was a need for faster transportation, for mail delivery, and paying passengers. Aviation has obviously had a variety of military applications. World War I through World War II, many engineers started to develop more efficient aircraft and better engines. During World War II, the demand for aircraft was extreme. There were advances in aerospace engineering and manufacturing capability that made this possible, including aircraft performance, navigation aids, and radar. We continued to advance in aeronautics until we came to the point of the supersonic flight, which occurred in 1946 and was completed by Captain Chuck Yeager. He flew at Mach 1.06, or approximately 700 miles per hour, at 43,000 feet. In addition to traditional aircraft, we also have rotorcraft, also known as helicopters. Leonardo da Vinci first envisioned the helicopter in 1480. Igor Sikorsky began creating engines and wide-scale production of helicopters in 1944. The Sikorsky name is still synonymous with rotorcraft today. However, the company is now owned by Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin purchased Sikorsky in 2015. In addition to our larger aircraft, we have now begun to see small unmanned aircraft systems. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, uses the term Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems, SUAS, for what is also referred to as drones, multi-rotor, tricopter, quadcopter, or hexacopters, UAS, or Unmanned Aerial Systems, or UAVs, Unmanned Aerial Vehicles. Small unmanned aircraft systems were first used as an expensive toy, but military applications began in the 1980s. In 1990, miniature and micro UAVs were introduced, and then in 2000, the US deployed the Predator drone in Afghanistan. In 2014, Amazon proposed using UAVs for package delivery. Another major advancement in the 20th century was spaceflight. However, rocketry, the foundation of spaceflight, is actually credited to the Chinese as far back as 1232 AD and was based on the development of black powder. Russian space scientist Tchaikovsky developed equations in 1903 to reach space. And then American Robert Goddard, considered the father of modern rocket propulsion, created the first liquid-fueled rocket launch in 1926. In addition to the milestones in spaceflight was also the space race. This was known as the competition between the United States and the Soviet Union, or now Russia, to get to the moon. In 1957, the first satellite was put in orbit by the Soviet Union, as well as the first animal. In 1958, the United States successfully launched its first satellite, Explorer 1, in January. And also in 1958, the US passed the National Aeronautics and Space Act, creating NASA that October. In 1961, President Kennedy declared that the US should commit to landing on the moon within the decade. Through major feats of engineering and science and mathematics, we landed on the moon in 1969 and won the space race. Neil Armstrong took the first moonwalk on July 20th, 1969. So what's next? There's still a great deal to focus on in advancing aviation. SpaceX is launching all kinds of new commercial space flights. We also have new commercial aircraft. And in the words of Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond. Alright everyone, that is a wrap on the evolution of flight. So please make sure you check in my MCPS classroom to see what else needs to be completed before class when I see you, and I will talk to you later. Bye!